It was a rainy night on the digital boulevard. Streetlights flickered through the fog of forgotten reviews and half-baked hype. But in this city, we dig deeper. We don't chase trends. We chase truth. Welcome to the Interrogation Room. Tonight's guest doesn't just walk the beat, he built the pavement. John1972. A name whispered in the alleys of TDF, etched in the glossy pages of CoverDoll, and burned into the circuits of camera flashes across the doll world. He's a reviewer with precision, a writer with polish, a moderator with muscle, and if something's broken, he's probably the guy who knows how to fix it. Mechanically inclined, that's putting it mildly. This man's got more tools than a noir gumshoe's got vices. His photography? Clean, controlled, clever. He doesn't just shoot dolls, he captures presence. And when he speaks, people listen. Not because he's loud, but because he's earned it. Ladies and gentlemen, lock your lenses and dim the lights. This is the Interrogation Room, Briefing 006, and our guest tonight is the one and only John 1972. Appreciate you stopping by, John. You're not under arrest yet, but I am going to ask the tough questions.
Thanks. Appreciate you having me.
I've been following your work for a while, John. I know you got your start with a teddy babe, and I remember you won that Zelex over on TDF. But I gotta ask, what pulled you into this shadowy little corner of the world? What got you started with dolls?
When I was quite young, I always was interested in the artificial companionship. You know, the typical movies with robots and artificial intelligence and just, you know, a lot of that stuff I found very fascinating when I was a kid. I was never really a very social person. I thought it was something that, you know, I would be interested in, not just for the photography aspect, but just to have one laying in bed next to you, you tend to sleep better. It's, even though it's just a piece of, you know, silicone, it's a chemical reaction that happens in your head, I guess. So I was always interested in them and the technology and how they were made. And we're talking, you know, quite a few years ago, probably 30 some years ago. A buddy of mine was showing me, of course, he was just joking around, and we had come across the real dolls. I just was like, oh my God, those are really cool, you know? And yeah, you know, and I was like, I would have one of those. And they laughed and just kind of thought it was funny. But, you know, when you're, you know, 18, 19, 20 years old, there's no way in hell you're going to save up $10,000 for one of those. So, you know, but it was always just something that I was fascinated with. I was married for a while. My marriage kind of didn't work out, and I was starting to get a little older, and I just didn't feel like playing the dating game anymore. And I thought, well, you know, maybe I would sleep a little better, you know, if I had one of these laying next to me. And I thought, well, I'll look into it again. Maybe they've come down in price. And no, they hadn't. You know, the silicone dolls were very expensive. I had stumbled across the doll forum. I had, you know, just browsed around and I met a few people, and there was a couple of really nice people that had the teddy babes, and they had the original ones, and they were kind of smaller, shorter looking ones. They were adorable. And I wasn't, you know, I was very unsure about it because they weren't exactly what I wanted. You know, I wanted the full size silicone, you know, I wanted that realness next to me when I was sleeping at night. And it just, again, I knew it wasn't going to happen. I had become friends with a couple of the people. I got a really good deal from one of the owners from the forum. He used to have a shop called the Teddy Babe Store or something, I think it was. I I was friends with him. I still talk to him from very rarely, but a little bit here and there. He's not on the forum that much anymore, but I got a discount. I ended up buying one from him. And it's funny because I still have her. She's in the closet hanging on the wall on some hooks because they're very light. They don't weigh much at all. That just laying in bed next to me for, oh, hell, probably, well, yeah, at least 10 years straight before I started coming back to the forum more often. And that was when I accidentally stumbled across the Zelex dolls, and those were like $2,200 to $2,500 range. And I thought, well, there's something that I could save up for. And very shortly, they had this little contest, and I joined the contest. And you didn't have to do anything really. Just I think I put a paragraph on about why I would like one, and this and that, and I was one of the people that was randomly picked. You got to like go to their order form and literally order this doll as if you were buying it, which was kind of cool. And then they would just give you this special code you would type in, and it just was free. I mean, shipping and everything. And the damn thing coming to the door in a big box. The guy from the UPS guy gave me a funny look. I don't know if they knew what was in it or not. That was definitely the start of it right there. I mean, I had been fascinated with it my whole life almost, and then here was one in front of me. The Zelex had contacted me a few times, and they liked my review that I did, and they offered me, this was like a year or so later, and then I just started doing reviews for them, and then other companies got a hold of me, and I did reviews for them, and it just turned into this huge thing. And it's like, it's weird because I have people like, oh, you're John1972, and I'm like, yeah, so they're like, oh man, I heard of you, and it's just kind of crazy because I'm just an average person that just enjoys the whole community and the people involved in this. And I think what's really the most important thing that I really like the most about this whole thing is the fact that it isn't just a doll. Some people, these are their companion. These are like their life, even though the average person would laugh at that, and they're like, well, just go find yourself a girlfriend, blah, blah, blah. That's one of the main reasons why I got so involved in the community, was because I have seen firsthand the impact that these dolls make in some people's lives. And we're not just talking men. I mean, we're talking women as well. So that's the big part about this whole thing that really makes me want to be involved and help people.
Now that's the kind of truth that don't rattle, just sinks in slow. Dolls ain't just silicone and joints. For some folks, they're comfort, company, maybe even a lifeline. John, the deeper I get into this world, the more I realize it ain't just about dolls. It's about the folks you meet along the way. Real people, real stories. And I gotta say, I've met some truly good souls, yourself included. Feels like I stumbled into a pretty great crowd. All right, John. Now I gotta ask, going from a soft, huggable teddy babe to a high-end silicone Zelex must have felt like jumping from a cozy flannel blanket into a futuristic Cadillac. What was that shift like? Shocking? Exciting? Or just a whole new kind of bedtime negotiation?
Well, I'll tell you, they don't tell you this, well, I mean, people are starting to, warn people now, but nobody warned me, what the hell I was in for. I had to use a two-wheeler to get the damn box in the house. I could pick the teddy babe up one-handed. That early Zelix, you're talking their generation one Zelix, there was foam core in them, just not as much as there is today, and definitely not weight reduced like it is today. The girl had some meaty thighs, a pretty good plump looking rear end on her. I just was like, oh my God, this thing's heavy. What am I going to do? I think the biggest thing that new people need to know before they even purchase one of these, this is not about throwing them in your bed or throwing some clothes on them and just picking them up and setting them out in the living room to watch a movie, picking them up and taking them here and picking them up and taking them. That's probably not going to happen right away. You need to learn how to handle one of these. They're not, dead weight is a completely, I could pick, in comparison, when I was married, I could pick my almost 100 pound, she was like 98 pound wife. I could pick her up and I could run with her. I would probably pay hell picking up an 80-pound doll and running with it. They're just, the dead weight is just a complete shock to you, and moving them around, and the joints on these dolls when you first buy them, they're very tight, and all that just gets through in your lap, and you're just like, it's like an overwhelming experience. And then when you finally get her laying in your bed and she's all, you're sitting back and you're appreciating her and you're looking at her and you're like, wow, these things are really amazing. Over the years, they've just gotten better and better and better. I mean, I've got some dolls in the other room that I'll bet you I could take a photo of on my phone and show somebody, and they probably wouldn't even know it was a doll, I mean, so, like I said, I think the biggest thing that was definitely a shock to me and will be a shock to new people in this, in this community is definitely going to be the weight.
Yeah, totally hear you on the weight. My main doll's about 80 pounds, so I've had to learn how to move her safely. No pulled muscles or sore back, thankfully. It's all about being careful and finding a good routine. And I agree on the realism, too. I've taken some photos where people honestly couldn't tell she was a doll. It's kind of amazing how lifelike they've gotten. It really blurs the line between photography and reality. At some point for a lot of us, it stops being just a cool purchase or a curiosity, and it starts to feel like something deeper, something we actually care about. When did you first realize, hey, this isn't just a hobby, it's a real passion for me?
Well, the Zelix brought a lot of challenges. It wasn't just learning to pick them up and move them around and posing them, but the Gen 1 Zelixes, these are the very first ones that they were selling, they had issues. Zelix was known for wax figures with movie production. So they were by far capable of creating very realistic looking models. It was just their specialty was wax. Somebody told them that the doll industry was growing and that they should get involved. So their first line, I just don't think they really knew yet what they were doing, and they created dolls out of the exact same color silicone. It was almost like a creamy white, but not quite white silicone, very close to it. And they would demold them, trim them, and hang them up. And then they would be taken into another room. And depending upon whether you ordered fair skin, tan, dark tan, and then cocoa or whatever it is, they would spray a coating over top of them, which they figured would stay on there, and it didn't. So everybody that bought these or ended up with them very quickly, within a few months or so, just from rubbing on the doll, moving it around, dressing it, this coating started to come off. And you ended up with blotchy white spots everywhere. And it's funny because I still have that doll. And that is my bed doll. My Generation 1 Zelix is literally laying in my bed right now. That is, she just lays there. It's just my sleeping partner. That was one of the big problems. And that I was just starting to get into the photography part of it. And that was something that really put a damper on my photography. I definitely learned a lot of tricks with photo editing software, repainting the white spots, with cloning tools and stuff to try to make the photos look like the doll wasn't blotchy anymore. But that wasn't the biggest issue. The biggest issue is they assumed that when they tightened down the joints on the skeleton, that the nuts would just stay tight. And anybody that is mechanically inclined, as I am, and maybe you are, the joints used on dolls, still to this day, most of them, unless they're a ball joint, which is still pretty much a friction-based joint, but most of the dolls use, it's like a U joint. There's a nut and a bolt, and they tighten it, half-ass spec. And sometimes some manufacturers get it perfect, and all the joints are, relatively even. And some dolls I have, one arm's looser than the other. It's getting better, but it's one of those things that needs to be addressed. And friction joints, what happens is when that joint turns or pivots inside of there, the nut, if it's not tack welded to the actual threads, friction will grab either the nut or the other end of the bolt, and it'll turn with the joint when you're moving the doll, which in turn either tightens, depending upon which direction you're going, or loosens that nut. So you had many dolls where hip joints, arms would literally lock right up solid, and you couldn't budge them. That's because they tightened. Then you had dolls, which the majority of them, including mine, the nuts would just come loose. And then you ended up with this floppy doll that just wouldn't sit up, couldn't stand up, couldn't do anything but just lay there. And that's part of the reason why she's a bed doll. That was one of the things that was the most upsetting thing, probably, was even though I knew it was a doll, you see them falling apart, and for some silly reason, you've become attached to that doll. And it's like, it's almost as if your dog dies on you, And at that particular point, I realized, are you kidding me? I've become attached to this damn doll. And then I had some friends of mine, I'll try to keep this short, but I had some friends of mine in Florida. They're photographers, and they were doing promotional photography for many doll companies, and I won't mention their names. They knew how upset I was because my generation one was falling apart on me. They had one that was sexually faulty. There was a hole, and I guess it was right like that from the factory, between the anus and the vagina. So it was really not usable. They did photographs with it because it didn't matter. You're not looking inside there anyways when you're doing photographs. When they were done with the photo shoots, they can keep these dolls. Well, they contacted me and they said, well, we know you really like, the doll's name was Selena. They said, we really know you like Selena, and we'd like to literally give her to you because we like you, and we can tell that, you're really upset about your Zolix, and this would get you another doll to photograph. And I'm like, you're kidding me, really? And I was still, like I said, I was a nobody, and I wasn't doing reviews, I wasn't doing anything. I paid the shipping, and they sent me this TPE based doll, and she was a riot. She just got this adorable face, and I just did all these silly skits with her, and that was it. I was like, well, now I get it. I see from a photographer's mindset here why they like these dolls so much. You can pose them and they'll sit like that forever. You can just put them in all kinds of scenarios that maybe the model that you're paying hundreds of dollars for to come to your house just wouldn't do, So that was what got me into them more heavily. And then I started meeting more people. And that was when I started meeting people that didn't just have these dolls to take photos of. And it was kind of strange because I figured that most people, that was what they were doing with them. So here I am trying to be this fancy photographer with garbage cameras and everything. And I'm meeting all these people and I'm talking with these people. I'm like, okay, hey, what do you think of this camera? What do you think? And they're like, cameras? What are you talking about? That's my wife. And I'm like, oh, wow, okay. And that was when something lit up inside my head, and I realized, really, these things are not just for photography. These things have a meaning in many people's life, and quickly became that way with me. That was where the passion came from. Just it's not all about how great these dolls are. It's about, if I do a good review of this product and it turns out to be something that somebody buys and has feelings for, and it makes their life better in some form or another, I've done something in my life that's positive. That's how I look at this.
That's beautiful, man. I think a lot of folks outside the hobby don't quite get it. These dolls aren't just props or photo shoots. For some, they're art. For others, comfort. For a lot of us, connection. And you, man, you become a damn good reviewer. You're not just breaking down features. You're helping folks understand the soul of this hobby. And when you talk about someone buying a doll based on your review, and that leading to joy, to meaning, to something real, well, that's purpose right there. I'll be honest, I caught the collecting bug big time. I've somehow ended up with over 60 wigs. Didn't even see it coming. How about you, John? Got anything you started collecting along the way?
Well, it's actually kind of funny because when I first got the doll, I thought, oh, man. I buy stuff on Amazon. No big deal. I'll just order everything on Amazon. And that's what I did for a while. Quickly, I caught myself, going to secondhand stores, and I would see like a top I liked. and I'd go through the checkout line. I'd lie my ass off. And I'd laugh myself to death in the car on the way home. Here I am at a checkout, and I've got women's lingerie and women's tops and stuff, and they're looking at me, and I'm like, ha ha ha. Just seems like every time I come to these secondhand stores, I'm buying clothes for my girlfriends, but I never buy anything for myself. And they're like, "Oh, you're so sweet," and they don't have a clue, And yes, my girls have by far more clothing than I do. Absolutely, hands down. When I do a photo shoot, and if I find myself using the same corset or the same bra or underpants more than 2 or 3 times, I'm like, ugh, this is repetitive. And I'll put them in a bag and I'll take them back to the damn drop center and I'll order more. And it's just like, oh my God, it is definitely. The only good thing is I've found, websites like Shein and Amazon and stuff. You can get lucky and you can find stuff pretty cheap. But the wigs, like you said, oh my God, I only use cheap wigs. But I have seen some of the prices of high-end wigs, and they're hundreds of dollars. And I wish I could afford that, but I just can't. So I can see how anybody can quickly get stuck in something one way or another, whether it be, I got a buddy that is just like you with your wigs, is a shoe fanatic. And he doesn't even hardly put shoes on his dolls. He's got these silicone feet. And he literally buys shoes and puts on those feet. And he's got drawers full of women's shoes. And I asked him about that, and he says, "Oh, I love women's feet, and I love buying the shoes just to put on the feet." And I look at them, and strictly that's all he does. And I'm just like, wow, So it's definitely triggering to many people to buy lots of clothing and shoes and jewelry for their dolls. So you got to be careful with it because you can get stuck in it real quick.
Yeah, I've seen that happen. One outfit turns into a full-blown closet, and before you know it, you're coordinating shoes and wigs like it's Fashion Week. I get a ton of inspiration from places like CoverDoll, Faye's Dollhouse, and what folks are posting on TDF. There's something addictive about bringing out different sides of their personality through style. It's part hobby, part art project, and maybe just a little retail therapy too. John, I've been following your posts for a while now. Your doll photography and reviews always stand out to me. There's something real in the way you share. How did you find yourself becoming such a respected voice in the community?
I don't even know, to be honest with you. I did a couple reviews. A couple people actually sent me, personal messages thanking me for the review. Said, "Hey, we appreciate your honesty. A lot of people aren't as honest." And I was like, well, I don't want to sugarcoat anything, and I kind of I want to be as honest as I can, so that if somebody reads one of my reviews, they can take that information and use it to decide whether or not they want to, pursue that brand or a different brand. And that's another thing that I think is probably also helped, is the fact that I haven't just stuck with one brand. I've got a couple of friends that, one in particular, even though he wasn't under contract, he was strictly Xelox. All of his photography and reviews was just strictly Xelox. And I said right from the start, I said, I I could do that, but I'd rather explore and see what's out there. I would love to be able to be part, not just review them, but give feedback to the company, test out the products and get, beta test models and improve these, the future dolls for those that, we're talking, some of these people are saving money for years to buy one of these. Without honest reviewers, beta testers, and so forth, you end up with a lot of catastrophic failures. And I won't mention any brands, name brands, but it's happened where specific brands have just come right out and said, here's this new line we're releasing. The type of silicone we're using is superior to this type, and this is going to be the best thing, and blah 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 blah. And I'm like, oh well, you never sent anybody anything to test, not even a sample. You didn't have to, if you couldn't afford to send a whole doll to somebody to test. At least if you're going to, test out a new material, send a chunk of that material to someone just to stretch and yank on and see what it does. I mean, at least take some time to, try it out. And I think, if a lot of these companies were to choose people they could trust, like me, and I mean, there's other people out there, it would make the future dolls a lot more reliable and durable. Over the years of doing the reviews and so forth, I think a lot of people kind of agreed to that. And like I said, I've gotten actual personal messages from people thanking me for my reviews and for, my honesty. And it's crazy because, I mean, I check my messages and stuff on the forum, and I'm not just a moderator. I'm friends with these manufacturers. I'm friends with them on, personal friends with them on Discord, and on the forum both. And they asked me, they were like, so, hey, what did you think of this particular model that we sent you? What did you like it? What don't you like about it? And I never would have, especially 20 years ago, I would have never thought I'd been in that position in my, right now, the position I'm in right now is amazing. I am in the middle of what I would consider a peak in the industry. In the last couple of years, I have seen, and I'm sure you have too, countless amounts of new brands, brand names, we'll say that, because some of these, may be made in the same factory, just with different sub names and stuff. It's a really, the manufacturing of them in China is very interesting how it works. There has been huge amounts of brand names that have come out in just the last couple of years here. Some of them are, some of them are really good. I think what's happened is people have started to look up to me like I'm something that they, somebody that they should ask. Hey, John, so, I see you got that X brand, blah, blah, blah. What'd you think of it? And I'm like, well, there's a couple things I don't like, and there's some things I do. Really? Wow, thanks. Because the company sure as hell isn't going to tell you that. And yeah, I mean, it has. It really has. I mean, I've got people that personal message me on Discord, and I recognize some of the names from the forum. They're using the same name or a similar name. And they're like, hey, man, I saw your review, and, I noticed you mentioned this. What do you think about this and that? It's rewarding to know that people, trust my, my reviews and my opinion on the product. It's very rewarding is all I can really say, because it's not something that I expected. It's not something that was a goal of mine. I really enjoyed the industry. I really enjoyed the community, the people, being part of this. And I just kind of became more part of it than what I thought, I guess. And hey, I'm in for the long haul, man. I mean, companies hear this podcast and get a hold of me. You want me to test some products? Hey, all the more the better. I mean, the way I look at it is, I may not keep some of them, but finding issues and fixing them before you sell thousands of these to people, you're better off, in the long run than you are selling those before somebody finds the problem. And I'm starting to see that become more of a normal thing. So let's hope that continues, because, like I said, I've seen some flops, man, in my time, and where companies just out of the blue release this brand new line that's going to be the best of everything, and it just completely fails. And that's just because there was no testers. There was very little just technical testing, I don't think, behind it.
That's exactly how it should be. Companies tapping into the experience of real users before pushing something to market. And honestly, if they're not calling you John, they're missing out. You've helped shape expectations in this community. Your feedback's like gold in a scene where quality and trust still need champions. That kind of insight is what separates a rushed release from a doll people truly connect with. Research and development isn't just a checkbox. It's the bedrock of a product people can believe in. Which makes me wonder, have you ever looked into the manufacturing process in China? Like what actually goes into bringing these dolls to life from start to finish?
Yeah, sure. I've become friends with a lot of them. At least the reps. And there's a reason behind that too, is because they speak very poor English. And usually the reps that they have hired are very, what's the term? It's a bilingual, is it, or something, where you can speak a whole lot of languages. They're very good. I've had literal Zoom meets with some of them. And the one that I had a Zoom meet with, like you were talking about.
That was Sarah Gibson from Aero Venus I mentioned. She's great.
I was blew away at how fluently she could speak English. So as becoming more friends with them and so forth, I have learned that it is a cutthroat business. But at the end of the day, it's not like it is here in the United States. It's not like you might walk into a grocery store with a Chevy cap on, and a guy might walk by with a Ford cap on and flick your cap off your head and say, Chevy. It's over there. These people go to dinner together. They're friends. And it amazes me that even though there is such a sheer amount of, probably, I would imagine some of it's quite secretive behind the scenes, for the most part, they're all friends. Try that here in the United States.
Everyone I've chatted with has been super friendly. I've even got a few lined up for future episodes. It's like building international relations, one doll at a time. From what I've seen, maybe you've noticed it too, the market's become this high-stakes game of one-upmanship. Every brand racing to outshine the next, sometimes crossing into copycat territory. Feels like competition's fueling the fire.
Well, I guess it's kind of like that everywhere, If one company innovates anti-poke fingers, I can almost guarantee within a month or two, somebody else is already starting to come up with their own anti-poke fingers. And that happened. That's been a thing now for years now. The articulated hands. We've gone through so many variations of articulated hands just in the last couple of years that I've lost track. I mean, first we had wires, and then we had, very basic skeletons. And now they're just, if you peel the silicone off, they look like a Terminator. They're just absolutely crazy skeletons in their hands. And then now it isn't just in the hands. They're doing the damn feet. Come on. I put shoes on my dolls, but they are doing literal articulated feet where the toes. Now I got one or two that you can bend the toes, but they're more of a hard wire in there than anything. But now they're doing, they're going all out, man. They're doing articulated skeletons in the feet, and I had bet money on it. Now the next company is going to do it, and the next company is going to do it, and the next company is going to do it. And the thing of it is business is business. And that's something about me I think that a lot of these companies like, is that I think like a business. And the way I look at this is these are products that are being made to make money. And if I don't innovate these new features, the guy across the street's going to. And I'm not going to sell dolls because the guy across the street's going to be selling the dolls instead. And that is the industry. And that's what keeps things interesting in the doll community, is this innovation, is this streaks that the companies go through. You'll have one company that'll just be on top with this really cool new feature, and nobody else has it. And then pretty soon, the next guy will have it, and the next guy will have it, and the next guy will have it. And then it just plateaus. And then somebody comes out with something else that's the best of the best. And then everybody goes over there. And as long as we can keep that going, there's going to always be this person that isn't hurting for money, that's going to say, wow, I kind of wish my dolls had that feature. And they're going to buy one. So, as long as we have this shift up and down of copying from each other and trying to outdo each other, I think the industry is going to stay around for a while. But after a while, what's going to happen? I think about it. Have you thought about it? What happens 5-10 years from now when there just isn't anything to put in these dolls? What happens when we hit this point where we're just maxed? Technology just isn't there. We just can't do any more. The skeletons are perfect, which probably will never happen, but the silicone's perfect. The finish is perfect. What happens when we get to that point? What do you think?
That's a silver lining, isn't it? All this competition in the market, it's like rocket fuel for innovation. It pushes every manufacturer to level up, which means better products for us in the long run. I think the horizon's still expanding. Advancements in material science, robotics, even neural interface tech. Those could open doors we haven't even dreamed of yet. And who knows, if cloning or bioskin tech keeps evolving, we might not be looking at a new peak. We might be heading into an entirely different mountain range. The future's got surprises, no doubt.
Wow, I don't know.
Let's talk about your lineup a bit, John. You got quite the collection, each with their own look and vibe. I know you got a soft spot for the smaller, pixie-sized gals. What drew you to those? And how did your collection come together over time? Was it love at first sight, or more like a series of irresistible accidents?
Well, I have a lot of full-size dolls. And that has just been, collecting, mostly testing the dolls and review dolls. A lot of people, find out how many I have, and they're just like, "Oh, you lucky," blah blah blah. Most of my dolls are, often. I hate to say it like this because I don't want people to think that, reviewers are special. But I honestly believe that a lot of the dolls that I have here are not exactly the dolls that end up being sold. For example, my first Gen 1 Zelix that I was telling you about that had the white blotchy spots and stuff, when I picked that doll, I chose a head that was very unique. I can't remember the name of that damn head now. But anyways, I don't think they had the mold wasn't quite right with it. And when they made the head, it just didn't turn out. And they sent me a PM and apologized and said, we'll send you the head if you really want it, but we don't like it. I mean, that's pretty much what they said to me. And I looked at it and I was like, I mean, I see what you're saying. The mouth was funny and the teeth looked like vampire. It just looked weird. But it was a good head. And I said, well, can you trim the teeth and, repaint them or something? And it would probably look okay. And they're like, we don't want to send this out because we know you're going to take pictures of it. And I didn't get the head. But they said, pick a different head, doesn't matter what head, and we'll send it with the body. Well, I was spoiled. They had just posted some photographs and I think a couple little short videos of this China Adult Expo that they go to every year. I don't know if they still do or not. This was when Zelix first created the 170C. So before it was Inspiration, before it was any of that. They had that doll sitting in a chair, on a leather chair, I think it was, with a beta head. Wasn't the exact head that they ended up selling. And I fell in love with that head. And I told them, I said, it was the Carmen head, which everybody under the sun ended up buying that head. They sent me that beta tester head. When I took photos of her, people said, how come yours looks so much different than ours? And I didn't really realize it at first. And over the years of doing these reviews and so forth and these testing, I have caught on to this. Like, for example, I have a Top Fire that I recently reviewed. Great doll. And this is another one of those companies that just come out of the nooks and crannies, and they're fantastic dolls. They're innovating the artificial intelligence and the robotics into their dolls. So they have this auto blowjob feature and sucking features, and heating this and heating that, and artificial intelligent chat features and stuff. They sent me, I think it's the first head. In fact, I don't even know if you can buy it still. I think they're still working on it. But I've the doll that I just, and her name's Samantha. You've probably seen the photos from her. She's a beautiful doll. That head is a beta head that I don't think anybody's ever going to have. So it's interesting because I end up with some unique stuff, but then it's also sad when you end up finding little things that would be a deal breaker, that would be something that somebody would say, oh, well, I'm not going to buy it, that you have found and told the company about. Then they turn around and they fix it. And they're like, well, tariffs are high and blah, 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 blah. And they never send you a fixed version. So I have a lot of dolls, but I have a lot of dolls that have some flaws in them, if that's,
So, John, you got a room full of prototypes. Well, how about those little cute dolls I seen on your posts? Boy, they are something else.
So you end up with a lot of that stuff. But yeah, I have a lot of dolls. I met this guy on the forum. He just lives about 2 hours, 2.5 hours, maybe, if that, from me. He pretty much, he's got a couple of full-size dolls, but he pretty much strictly photographs the miniature dolls. And the technical term that people use are called scale dolls. I saw some of his photos and I thought, I'm tricky when it comes to photography. And I said, I'll bet you if I had one of those and just the right lens, I could probably fool somebody into thinking that's a full-size doll if I place it in just the right environment and take just the right photo. So I ended up investigating, and I bought Phison, I think is how they're pronounced. I bought one, and they're not very expensive. I think mine was like $89 on sale or something. Come with a head and everything. They're like a TPE kind of material, but they feel very much like silicone. They're listed as silicone, but I'm told they're not. But they have a skeleton in them, and you can pose them and everything and dress them. And I was really quite surprised at the huge following that these scale dolls have. So I have one of those, and I have many of the cheaper plastic, basically, ones, like very similar to Barbie type dolls, but they're collectibles, like the Monster High dolls. I have quite a few of those, and they're adorable and they're fun. And if you get the right lens, you can, stand them in places in your house and take pictures and do stories with them and everything. And they're just, so long story short, so this guy comes to visit me, and he brings a backpack, and he opens it up, and it's just full of these little mini scale dolls. I hop in his car and we drive around. I show him places around here, and I watch him photograph these little dolls. And I was like, wow, that's actually pretty cool. This guy's talented, So it was another one of those, just piqued my interest, and I thought, what the hell, I'll give it a try. And it's definitely not my primary thing. I much rather photograph the full-size dolls, but I find it fun, and I can see the appeal why a lot of people, photograph and collect the scale dolls, definitely.
Yeah, I get that. There's something really appealing about the smaller scale. Easier to handle, pose, and store, but still full of character. I've had my eye on a few myself. BC Dolls make some great ones. I'd love to add one to my lineup someday. Just haven't made the leap yet. So, John, what's it like being a bit of a celebrity in the doll world these days? You're not just behind the lens anymore. You're out here starring in podcasts, rubbing elbows with folks like Sarah from Aero Venus, and now sitting across from me in the Interrogation Room. Feels like you've stepped into the spotlight. How's that ride been?
It's it's a sweaty under the armpit experience at first, and in fact it's that way usually every time, at least at first, until you relax and get into it. This is not my name, so I you kind of get this internet persona that people know you by. I guess, as silly as it sounds, is a lot more relaxing behind a computer, I guess, than it would be me standing at a podium in front of thousands of people trying to talk about this. Now, I could probably still do it. And I'm not a social person, but when you get me going, I can talk about subjects like this for hours, and it doesn't faze me at all. So, I don't really understand how it became like this. People seem to enjoy asking me questions. People seem to enjoy my input, my thoughts on this and that. And I think, the key thing to all of this is the fact that my years of working with my hands. I was an electronics technician for many years. I've done mechanics work. I've done clock repair. I've done vintage camera. I fix cameras, and I think having that mechanical experience behind me, rather than just the average person that knows absolutely nothing about what's under the silicone, I think I am appealing to these manufacturers because I think they know that if I was standing there in their facility, that I would say, well, hey, this don't look right. Why don't you try this or this or this? Unlike the average Joe that just doesn't know, or their ideas and ideals are far-fetched or not feasible, reachable, in today's technology. There are things that a lot of people really want in this industry that simply is not possible right now. And I think it's important that people that are influencers, reviewers, technical advisors, beta testers have the amount of years behind them that I do. I mean, we're talking 20 plus years of this doll industry that I've been part of. Okay, so I haven't been part of, the silicone and the TPE dolls that long, but the doll industry in general, it's, we're talking 20 years, and we're not talking the dreaming years of when I dreamt about having these dolls when I was 20 years old looking at real dolls. We're not talking about those years. We're just talking about the years of hands-on actual experience and being friends with the people in the community and seeing where things have gone. And I think the great thing is I can see where things will probably be going in the future, not just us that are already involved in the community, but the future members that will join this community are going to be blew away by what's coming.
Man, 20 years in this game. That's no small thing. You've seen the evolution from the early days to now, and that perspective's rare. Between your background in engineering, clock repair, and everything else, you bring a precision to this hobby that a lot of folks just don't have. You're not just along for the ride, you help steer it. And you're right, the new folks coming in, they're about to step into a world they're not even ready for. You've done some really insightful writing over at CoverDoll, the kind of content that helps both seasoned collectors and newcomers understand the deeper layers of the hobby. From repair guides to behind-the-scenes looks at manufacturers, your work really adds value to the community. What's it been like writing for them, and how did that journey begin?
I had checked out CoverDoll quite a bit over the years. Read some articles and checked out, the actual format of how it works and stuff. But I don't know why I just never really was that, much into it, or I guess I was still trying to create my little John's Girls or whatever the hell the name of my thread is. I was still working on that and trying to get photos of the dolls and do stories with them and stuff that I just wasn't, as big of a part of CoverDoll as I probably should have been. As things progressed, one of the people that worked for CoverDoll said, "Hey, John, we really like some of your photos, and we were wondering if you'd be interested in a photographer of the month." I'm like, "So what exactly is that, And they said, "Well, basically, you pick an open available month," and they gave me a list, and they said, "You pick that month, and you just do 1, 2, or however many photo shoots, whatever you want to do. Those photos, well, technically, they are not supposed to have been posted or shared. So basically, they get a hold of you quite a few months beforehand. I picked November, I believe it was, and had like 3-4 months or so to work on it. And I did a bunch of photos of Natalie, I believe was my, yeah, I think so. No, I take that back. It was Kira. Kira is my 175 Zelex. And I did 3 photo shoots where I just, different themes where I dressed her up as she looked like she was a teacher or something in one of them. And then I did a bed shoot with her. That was a real sexy bed shoot with her. And I did this gothic kind of photo shoot with her with some lingerie. It was really turned out okay. And I submitted those. And then in November, they post those, and you fill out this form. It's really interesting, where they ask you a bunch of questions like, what's her name, like a bio, I guess you call it, or whatever it is of her, and it's interesting, So I filled all that out and posted it. They said, we usually ask if you're interested in coming back the following year as a actual cover doll shoot. And I said, can I take November again? They're like, yeah. So then the following year, I did my photo shoots with Natalie, and those were literally on the cover. Natalie's right on the cover. And then you click on it and open it up, and there's a spread of, three shoots I think I did with her. And I was like, well, this is really quite cool. And over the time of working with them just to do those couple different, shoots, I was reading the articles and looking over stuff, and I didn't really see any blogs or whatever you call them that were addressing, you know, doll, technical doll, things like I try to avoid the hey, look at me, I'm just a new product from this particular brand. I try to make sure that the brand that I am writing about is offering something new and innovative. And I spoke to one of the big people that run the cover down, and I was talking to him about it, and they said, "Oh, we would love to have an article like that." And I thought, yeah, I'll give it a shot. Well, this month, yeah, July marks 12 issues, a whole year that I've been writing the Dell News Monthly. If I did them in my own words, in my own everything, it'd be easy to do. But I have to, these companies aren't knocking on the door. I have to go out of my way. I'm on Instagram, I'm on X, I'm all over social media. So I see these doll companies, they'll be posting photos of new features. And if I think it's something interesting, if they're an approved manufacturer on the forum, I'll send them a personal message and I'll tell them, who I am and that I write this article for CoverDoll, and if they'd be interested or not. Some of them are like, yeah, and some of them are like, I get this. I'll get some companies that are just like, oh yeah, thank you very much. Everything you need to know about this feature is here, and they'll send me a link, and it's a link to their webpage. And I'm just kind of like, well, I kind of wanted you to be involved. You know what I mean? And some companies just won't. They just throw you a link to their website and say, go to town. And those ones, I shelve them. Sometimes I don't even write about them. It's the companies that are excited about the article, that want to be part of the community and want the feedback that I care about writing about. So a lot of these articles that you're seeing on that cover doll are all companies that I personally spoke with, that are like excited about this new feature. I'm trying to get XT doll back in. They've got the brand new, they're one of the ones with the articulated feet. It's a new year, and I have to. I lost one of my hard drives, my main drive with all of my photos and shit on it. I'm really bummed about it. I probably lost over 500 gigs worth of photos and cover doll stuff. It's gone. I'm trying to data recover it, but long story short, it's a new year, so I am looking and starting a new list, and I do believe that next month will be probably Zellex. They've joined the bandwagon of human scanned skin texture. I'm surprised that it took them this long, because there's quite a few brands that have been doing this technology for a while now. But we have the new Inspiration 2.0, which I just got one. She's laying on the couch right now waiting for me to finish photos of her for a review. So, and now Zellex just announced that they have a fusion line or something that is coming out. So there's a lot coming, down the pipeline here. So yeah, that's basically the nutshell with my cover doll. is my articles are hopefully semi collaborative with the company to give the readers a little bit of inside information and photographs that you may never have seen. Like, for example, I never can pronounce this brand. Is it Galatia or Galati? I don't know. They were one of my last year's articles that I did. I was blew away by the sheer amount of work that it takes, and they use actually humans that have to sit still, and they take this liquid silicone or something, and they spread it all over the woman's legs, and she has to just sit there till it cures. Then they peel that off, and then they do another section of her body, and they put that all together and scan that, and it actually gets the fingerprints and everything off their body if they want it. And they make that into a 3D file, and then that is somehow added to the mold, which needs to be updated. And then the molds are created, and then they do all kinds of steps to make your doll. And that's something that you need to. Apparently, you've been following my my cover doll articles. I touched a little bit on how they make them, and it's quite a few steps. It's very impressive. It's definitely not something that is, most people's like, oh, it's mass produced and they just spit them out. No, there's quite a bit that goes into a lot of that stuff is done by hand. You have to take the skeleton, which, for example, like Zelix, for example, they have their own facility now. They make all their skeletons and everything. At least they were, as far as I know, they still are. So they have their own division that makes their own skeletons. Then they ship those over to another section where they center them into some kind of a mold and inject the foam. Then they take that apart and they trim that and work that over. And then they take that and they center that into the final mold, which is, I don't think they do anymore. They used to wire that to half the mold, and then they'd put the other half over it, and then they'd stand it up, and they have this machine they would slide over and pull a handle, and that would actually put the silicone down into the neck portion and vibrate the mold to get all the air pockets and stuff out of it. And then when it cures, they separate it, and then they trim all those seams by hand. And then they take, and that has to cure. And then they take that into another room and they spray details. And then they take that. And it's amazing the amount of work that goes into those things for a $2,000 doll. That's pretty impressive.
Yeah, it's wild how much goes into it. More than most folks ever realize. Every curve, joint, pigment, none of it's accidental. It's craftsmanship, plain and simple. And I know exactly what you mean about the manufacturer getting excited. I found myself really appreciating the vendors who get genuinely excited when I reach out. Not the ones pausing to calculate some return, but the ones who just get it. The ones who see value in being part of the community, who light up at the chance to collaborate and contribute. That kind of energy, it's contagious. And it's what makes this whole space worth investing in. You've worn a lot of hats in this world, John. Photographer, writer, reviewer, beta tester. And now a bit of a mentor to folks coming up in the community. From sharing your experience to shaping the conversation, your presence is felt in all the right ways. And on top of all that, you're a moderator over on TDF, helping guide one of the biggest hubs for doll enthusiasts. How did that come about? What led you to take on that role?
I think with all of this the reviews and writing the articles and stuff. One of the guys had mentioned to some of the moderators, some of the bigger, the big cheeses, I guess you could say, that they thought that I would be, a nice guy, to help people out. I was offered to apply if I wanted to, and I was very hesitant about it at first, because I I didn't want it to feel like work. I wanted to, I wanted to help people, but I didn't want it to really be a whole lot of work. And it is. Unfortunately, it's a lot of work. There's a lot that goes on behind closed doors that people just have absolutely no clue about. I'm amazed at the amount of work, and this is completely voluntary work that all these moderators do. Nobody's paid for this. And it's there's just tons and tons of stuff we do. But I went ahead and I applied, and it's, people, the only thing I mean, I like it. It's obviously I'm friends now with some of the the higher up mods, and even I have spoke with some of the owners, and so, well, I was friends with Dave anyways. Is when I bought my my teddy babe from, but it was an interesting step forward, but yet it's been hit and miss with a lot of people. I don't think. I mean, the people who are my friends just laughed it off because they know I'm still the same guy. But a lot of the newer people that didn't know who I was, I think, shun on you a little when they see that you're a moderator, like almost as if I'm like a police officer or something. And that's not the case. I'm actually a very friendly person. I would spend an hour fixing your screwed up thread if you just gave me the chance and asked. So I do it because I just want to help people, and I like to see the forum. I like to see it thrive, and I like to see people enjoying it.
I know the feeling, partner. I wear this badge every day, chasing leads, sifting through shadows, trying to separate the real from the riffraff. Sometimes keeping the peace means taking a little heat. Comes with the territory when you're after the truth. TDF's been like home base for me since the start. It's where I did my homework, asked the dumb questions, and figured out how to make that first big purchase without getting burned. I owe a lot to the folks who took the time to help me back then. And now, seeing how much it's grown, I gotta ask, John, since you've been around the block a few times, how has the forum changed over the years? What's evolved and what stayed the same?
Well, it is for the better. And that's the line that I was talking about. People look at the moderators as police officers, that maybe we're not nice people, or they don't like the rules and so forth. You're talking, like I said, almost 20 years. It was really simple, probably, back when things started. There's always rules and regulations that, legal rules and regulations that step into play, and people don't see that. That's what happens behind the scene. In order to be legal and do things legally, the forum has changed quite a bit over the years, but not in a bad way. Yeah, okay, so some of the stuff may be a little limiting, but in the long run, it is definitely not just better for you, but better for the owners in a legal standpoint. And that's the reason why there's moderators, and that's the reason why there's staff. It's because there's a lot that goes on behind the doors that people don't know about, that just a lot of it would seem completely silly to the average person. But from a legal standpoint, it is just something that needs to be done to keep you safe and future people that come to the forum safe and protected from, issues that could arise. There's so much that goes on. It's the internet. It's a dangerous place. And I just don't think people realize how much work it takes to run a forum at such a scale as the Doll Forum. So definitely hats off to the people besides me that have been running and have been supporting that forum all these years, because I know firsthand that's a hell of a job. Absolutely no doubt in my mind.
Gotta tip my hat to the folks behind the curtain, the mods, admins, and all the unsung heroes who keep the gears turning. TDF isn't just a forum, it's a lifeline for new folks and a compass for seasoned collectors. I don't take that for granted. Having a space like that run with care and consistency is something rare in any community. Now, John, for all the fresh faces just stepping into the world of dolls, what's the golden rule? What's the kind of etiquette a newbie ought to know when they first walk through the TDF doors?
Well, and this is, it's funny because being a moderator, I see it talked about a lot. And they'll be like, man, what's wrong with these people? Don't they ever read the rules? And the funny thing is I sat back and scratched my head and I thought about it and I was like, no, hell no. I don't think I ever read the rules when I joined. I mean, who reads the rules? You know what I'm saying? So I think that the most important thing is to try to understand the rules and just lurk for a while. See what people are talking about. See how the actual, the format works. How threads are created by individual people. And when you post on that person's thread, you are interacting with their thread. So when you talk about something on their thread, out of respect, keep it on topic with that thread. That's what I think is the biggest thing that I see is you'll get this random person that just joined yesterday and like me never read the freaking rules. They're just browsing around and they'll see this thread that says 166C blah blah blah, and they'll click on it, and this guy's talking about how he absolutely adores this doll and showing photos of it and blah 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 blah. And this newbie, he's looking over it and he's like, man, that's a beautiful doll. Where'd you get that doll? And if you just would go back to the beginning of the thread, the thread owner says where he got it, and they just don't do their homework. Or they'll comment and say, man, that's a great doll. I was looking at this other brand and I'm thinking about buying this particular model. What do you think of that model? They obviously didn't read the rules, because the rules state that, and it really is just a respect thing. You should stay on topic, and you should not stray from the original poster's purpose of their thread. I'll see the random new person go on the Zelex forum, and he's looking around, and he'll be like, man, that's a really nice style. Reminds me of WM's model, blah, 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 blah. And that's a complete no-no. The rules state that you can't do that. It's more of a respect thing than anything. But I mean, you're not going to get banned for it, but you very well could get a personal message from somebody with a colored title like me that says, "Hey, man, this is rule blah blah blah. Check it out. Try to avoid that." And usually, for the most part, the new people will be like, "Oh, I didn't know that." Well, yeah, of course you didn't. You didn't read the rules.
Now look, I'm a detective. I play by the rules most of the time. But I'll admit, I don't always read them first. Still, if you're new to TDF, trust me, do yourself a favor and read the rules. It'll save you a heap of trouble and help you get the most out of this place. Before I ever laid eyes on my first doll in person, I did 6 months of deep research, case files, testimonials, vendor trails, all right here on TDF. I lurked in the shadows for about 4 months before even signing up. Learned the brands, the bodies, the good vendors from the shady ones. When I finally made my move, I knew exactly what I was getting into. So, John, from someone who's combed through every dusty thread and hidden gem on this forum, why do you think TDF remains the gold standard for first-time buyers?
Well, I mean, I can probably ask you a question. Do you know of any others?
Sure, I've seen a few others out there, smaller communities, scattered info, a post here and there. But nothing's got the depth, the longevity, or the collective brain trust that TDF's packing. It's the closest thing this world has to a central archive. And for a rookie sleuth or seasoned vet, it's still the best place to get the facts straight. Say, John, don't mean to stir the pot, but my friend Mary from High Love Doll mentioned she tried to apply for vendor status here, but was told applications weren't being accepted. Now, I know you folks have to keep the bar high, but from what I've seen, Mary's the real deal. Transparent, caring, puts her customers first. Any chance we could pull a few strings or at least reopen the case?
Well, I mean, I can look into that. I wasn't aware of that. There is, even though, I mean, I hate to say it in this way because then people's like, "Oh, I thought you said you didn't get paid," but that is above my pay grade, I guess you could say. All of the applicants for not just the manufacturers, but the vendors as well, all go through a special link that they contact, and it is all the owners and the site managers that take care of all of that. Technically, I am just a peon compared to the guys you see with the red tags and the purple tags. Those are the owners. Those guys, they have the power. They click one button, and you'll never sign into that forum again. Me, on the other hand, I am a global moderator. I have privileges to edit and change and enforce rules is pretty much what I'm for. When somebody posts an issue that goes to all of the moderators and even the owners, but usually the moderators will review the issue. They're called reports. I don't know if you've ever used the report feature, but it's a feature of the forum. We all review it and we go through and we find the more sensible solutions according to the rules. Remedy the issues. That is a security that I don't believe exists on very many, if any, other forums. So that is probably the reason I would say that TDF is one of the safest and most respected forums, is because of those reasons. We very strict rules, very strict. We make sure that everything is by the book to protect the forum and to protect you and keep, your information safe and stuff like that, and keep you from being harassed. You're still going to get the random person that's going to say nasty stuff on your thread. It's really simple. Click on their post, click the report feature, report them, and immediately that shows up to all of the moderators. We look it over, and if the person is malicious and bothering somebody from the community, that's my job. My job is to remove those people or remedy the issue and keep people happy on the forum.
Much obliged, John. Always good to have friends on the inside. Now let's turn the page to our next case file. John, you're not just an influencer. You're a compass for this community. So let's say a newcomer steps into this world, green as spring grass, not sure who to trust or what matters most. They ask for your advice. What's the first thing you'd tell them? Not just about the specs and vendors, but about the heart of the hobby too.
Well, this is funny, I have an actual friend in real life that wants a doll. The biggest issue is that I see, and it was before I was even a moderator, is the fear of what others will think of you owning the doll. And that is the probably the biggest thing that I would give any person that is thinking of buying a doll or getting into this industry, is think about that first and how you would address that if somebody was to find out, or if you have a plan to keep it from everybody, because that's the biggest thing I see. People buying special beds that have hidden compartments where they put the doll under the bed. People just locking themselves in the house and not letting people come over to their house. That's what I do. Well, I've got a whole room full of them, so I don't have company very often because, I've got some items that some people may frown on. So I think if you're gonna get into this industry, that's the biggest thing that I see. I think people just need to. They need to. I hate to say it because it seems really crude, but if this is really what you want, you need to grow some balls, and you need to just stand up for something that you are passionate about and something that you like and stuff that will make your future more happy, and just do it. It's a shame because the person I'm talking about backed out of getting a doll because he became more open to a relative of his and they made fun of him. So now he no longer wants to buy one and has a torso. So he hides the torso, has the fear that he will be made fun of if he was to buy a full-size doll. And that's a shame that society is the problem. It's the doll industry is not always accepted. That is probably my biggest, most important thing that I can give a new person that wants to get into this community. Definitely be sure that you're ready to deal with the possible failure of family members, friends finding out, because they're probably going to eventually, and be ready for it. That's really all I could say. The rest will all fall into place.
There is some great advice, John. You got to stand up for yourself.
Just do it. I mean, the dolls are about happiness. It's about doing something for yourself. And a lot of these people, like I said, these dolls become their companion by being afraid or scared to do something that very well could improve your quality of life is a big mistake. And I really think that become a member of the forum and do like you did, a couple years or so, and just follow people and see what you think, if this is really for you first. And if it is, do it, because these dolls, I'm telling you, I mean, and I'm mostly a photographer, but I find myself walking into my doll room and I say hi to the damn things. I mean, there's something about them. They have a personality about them. It's a fantastic community of people that are very passionate about the dolls, the future of the dolls, what we can see, coming in the future. And man, just if it's something you're interested in, don't fear it. Just, send me a personal message. I'll talk to you, become friends. It's what it's all about.
John, thanks for sitting in the hot seat. Your insight's been solid gold. I think you've earned your release. I'll go ahead and take those handcuffs off now.
Yeah, no problem. You can invite me back anytime. I can talk about this stuff forever, so.
Well, there you have it, folks. In a world of specs, stats, and silicone, turns out the most important metric is happiness. John's walked the beat, seen the changes, and helped shape this community one post, one photo, one honest review at a time. This ain't just about dolls. It's about connection, creativity, and carving out joy in a world that doesn't always hand it to you easy. So if you're listening in, wondering where to start, maybe start by asking what makes you happy. The rest, as John's shown us, tends to follow. All right, John, you're free to go. Case closed for now.